Hey guys, how are you all? Hope so you all doing well. So let's start the story without any further conversation. So it's 1:40 and I start the voiceover 50 minutes voiceover 40-41 more. Okay, 2:30 से पहले खत्म हो जाएगा. Well, let's start the story. Yoongi come out. Yoongi come out. He sees Jimin who sits on the chair. He can hear the voices. It's mean he's from that time. Jimin is typing something on his phone. Yoongi see him. Yoongi Jimin. Jimin turn and see him. He wipes and again start to look outside. Yoongi went to him and bent down in front of him. Yoongi is at me, he asked softly, but Jimin don't such anything, Yoongi. I am for what I do. I was just so that's why I do this. You know me, please, Jimin, he said, and Jimin started to he stand up and Jimin him and go from there. Yoongi sign he know Jimin don't listen him easily. Yoongi come in. Yoongi come in the room. He see Jimin, who sit on the bed and sit with a pout. Yoongi smile to see him. He sit in front of him. Yoongi listen. Jimin about to go, but Yoongi hold his hand. Yoongi, please listen me. I know I did wrong, but I was so. Jimin saw. It's mean you ignore me? He asked while looking at it with his eyes. Yoongi, no way. I am sorry. I don't have anything to said expect this. Jimin, this is first time you did this. That's why he said with a big pout. Yoongi smile. He know Jimin can't stay without him, and that's true. Why Jimin stay, huh? Well, Jimin is so cute. By the way, the next text is, and he himself also. Yoongi my. So much Jimin, are you Yoongi? You too, he said, and then with a little bit they both fell in sleep. Some days pass, Yoongi and Jimin have to go on the party. Jimin is all ready. Stand in front of the mirror. He is saying himself, they just come back. He is also go and their Mrs. Min said something. And their Mrs. Min said something Jimin don't understand. So he thought to share with Yoongi. Yoongi come out after fresh up. He see and back him. Jimin smiled to see him. Yoongi places on his Jimin. Yoongi, listen me, he said. And but that was just I think 1 minute. I read text fastly. Hmm. Yoongi just hmm. Yoongi just hmm. He again on his. Jimin, mom said something today. I don't understand. He said, and Yoongi again just like he's not even listening him. He is busy to inhale the Yoongi on his. Jimin, Yoongi, first listen me. Yoongi, I am listening. Jimin, auntie said she want the he said, and Yoongi turned him. He plays. Jimin smiled as he know him well. Whenever he get ready like this, Yoongi's smile. Both start and here they start again. I think I why I write this as I don't do voiceover on these texts. It's become for so much way for me to do voiceover, and I have to speak non-stoply. It's physics. Well, the scene is so long, by the way. Hmm. Okay, no use of. Only they are telling. They are telling each other how much they each other. After good 10 minutes, Yoongi see Jimin who's Yoongi and he. Okay. Okay, I don't do the voice on this text also. And where was that piece? I am checking physics. And here it's look beautiful, but it's not that long. My nails is short. I cut my nails. It's looking beautiful like this, huh? Um, like it's looking Okay, so I'm talking about my nails. You all don't think too much. Hmm, my nails is good by the way. Okay, so the next text is also I do kind do the voiceover in the next text. Hmm. But Chungi asked him, and it's almost night. It's almost 9 a.m. when Yoongi opened his eyes and see the time. He sees Jimin, who was sleeping peacefully while a smile crept on his face as he see the on it. Jimin Yoongi wake up, he said, and Jimin moved a little bit, but he opened his eyes and see Yoongi a flashback come in front of his eyes. He smiled and again him. Yoongi, you okay? Jimin, Yoongi, if you feel, tell me. I give you. Jimin, no, I am fine. He said. Again, it's my time to see my nails. This one is much bigger than the other one, as I know. Let's see both of the like this. The both look same. Well, leave it. The next text is, and after some time, and after some time, he sit on the bed. Yoongi don't the things and don't even give to him. He so alas Jimin don't know how. Jimin fresh up. He come and see Yoongi, who's already fresh up. He see the time and sit on the bed. Today is Sunday, so don't. Today is Sunday, so he don't want to go downstairs. You take rest, Jimin. Jimin, Jimin, you don't listen me. What I am saying last night, Yoongi, oh yeah, you were saying something. He said and sit beside him. Jimin put his head on his shoulder. Jimin, auntie said she want from life, but she said she want. Yoongi, if we had a fuss as a girl, what auntie do? He asked while looking at him. Yoongi, she will be our Jimin. Jimin, this is what I said to her. But she said she don't know anything about this. He said, and Yoongi become, but he see Jimin and smile he on his forehead. Yoongi, nothing happens. I handle everything, he said, and Jimin, let's go downstairs. We are already so late. He say that time. Yoongi, hey, listen, I go out of city for some days, he said, and Jimin more change. Jimin, why? Yoongi for, and trust me, the meeting was so important. As he have to say this to Jimin. Hmm. Jimin, don't go. How I stay without you? Yoongi, I come in 2 to 3 days. Jimin, then take me with you. Yoongi, my staff will be with me. Jimin, I stay in Rome. Yoongi, please. He said. Then Yoongi stay silent for some times. Hmm. Jimin sees Min. He holds Yoongi hand. Yoongi, good morning, he said, and Mrs. Min seeing him. Mr. Min, so you come, he said, and Yoongi sit on the couch. Jimin sit beside him. Mrs. Min, what you think about the meeting, Yoongi? Mr. Min, sorry, Yoongi, I go by myself, Dad, as I don't think it's good to trust someone else. Mr. Min, good you. Take Jimin with you from when you both get. You don't go anywhere, he said. Then Jimin become happy. Mrs. Min, see him, Mrs. Min, but Mr. Min, I confirm your tickets also. Yoongi then start to talk with Mr. Min and about business. Jimin go in the kitchen. Mrs. Min come behind him in kitchen. Jimin is so happy. Jimin see Mrs. Min. He stands straightly. Jimin, auntie, you want something? Mrs. Min, you know well what I want, she said, and Jimin don't understand. Mrs. Min, Whatever, Jimin. How much time you take, Jimin means. Mrs. Min, I want from you as soon as possible. Jimin, Auntie, it's not in my hands. Mrs. Min, I am giving you reminder again and again. Jimin, if it would be, we will be so happy then also. Mrs. Min, if it would be a, I will her. As no one disappoint anyone in our family with this. We always want the as a boy. Otherwise, we do the boy second. Jimin, okay. If it's this, then do your son second. Now, why you are taking? He said, but he is feeling what they are, huh? They are, but still, Mrs. Min. Okay, then I'll find a good boy for him. She said, and go. Jimin make breakfast. Jimin serve Yoongi sir. Hmm. Serve Yoongi sir. I am going in my room. Jimin learned cooking. Jimin learned cooking a little bit as he make breakfast now. So he start to make a good breakfast. And Jimin sit on the bed. What Mrs. Min said disturb him so much. Jimin, if it's like this, do his what she start to me. He think and sign the door open. Yoongi come. Jimin see him, but he stays silent. Yoongi, you okay? You don't do the breakfast. Jimin, I am not in mood. Yoongi, why? Jimin, Yoongi, you know what your mom said? Yoongi signed. Yoongi, know what she said? Mrs. Jimin, she said if I don't give the to your Yoongi, she said, and you agree, huh? Think I can do this, Jimin Jungi? Why everything is like this? How can you live in this? You spent your 28 years, he said. He don't know unlovely Jungi feel. Still, it's their parents, Jungi Jimin. Think before speaking, he said, and Jimin stays silent. Jungi, you ignore mom. When I said I handle everything with the passage of time, why you do this? They come, Busan. Jimin is sleeping as he starts by the journey. Yoongi is showing work on his laptop as he have meeting tomorrow. They are here for 2 days. It's night time. Jimin open his eyes. He sees Yoongi, who's doing work. Then he see the time. It's almost 2 a.m. and still he is doing work. He went to him. Yoongi seeing him. Jimin sit beside him and place his head on his shoulder. Jimin, why you are not sleeping? Yoongi, see the time. Yoongi, I have work to complete. Jimin, let's sleep. You do later now. Yoongi, it's important you sleep. I come in 10 minutes. He said, and Jimin lay on the couch. He placed his head on his Yoongi. Sleep there comfortably. Jimin, I am okay here, he said and closed his eyes. Yoongi see him and then he finishes work as soon as he can. He take Jimin in it and sleep here on the couch. Next day, Jimin wake up. He sit on the bed and see the chit on the table. I am going for meeting. See you in evening. Don't skip your meals. He said and Jimin called him. Jimin, best of luck for your meeting. Yoongi, thanks. I order breakfast for you. Don't go out. Jimin, okay. Take care. Come soon. Yoongi, I will. Jimin, me too. He cut the call and then he signed. He fresh up. Then the door knocked. Waiter come with the Waiter come with the breakfast. He do the breakfast and spend the whole day like he watch movie and sometimes talk with his friends and then get ready. It's evening. Finally, after a long day, He's waiting for YoOngI to come. After some time, YoOngI come, and the first thing is this Jimin him. Jimin, thank God you come. YoOngI needs me that much. Jimin look up and see him with his innocent eyes and nodded. YoOngI, me too. He on his eyes, and Jimin offer him water. YoOngI don't see Jimin. He get ready, and Jimin think they go out at tomorrow as YoOngI have to take first. He don't sleep at night. Also, YoOngI fresh up. He come back and see Jimin sit on the couch doing something on his laptop. YoOngI, what you are doing? He sits beside him. Jimin finding movie. YoOngI, why don't you go outside? Jimin say him. Jimin, not today. You go and sleep. For sometimes you don't sleep in night also, he said, and again start to find movie. YoOngI see his take care of him so much. He on his cheeks. YoOngI Jimin see him. Jimin don't be sleep, he said, and YoOngI don't listen him. He and Jimin start giggling. Jimin, YoOngI what? He start to give him. Jimin fail. YoOngI. Okay, I think I don't do the voice over here also. He plays laptop on the side. Jimin, YoOngI, what are you doing? YoOngI, let's sleep, okay. Jimin, but I am not sleepy. YoOngI, you choose this by yourself, he said, and lay on the bed. Jimin is on. Jimin, YoOngI, you are. He said cutely. YoOngI see him. YoOngI, really? Jimin nodded and gave him on his. YoOngI, not like this. He turned him, and then within 1 second Jimin also started. Okay, so I don't do the voiceover here also. Yeah, why I write that much if I don't do the voiceover? I myself don't know, but if I don't write this scene, then my viewer said, Shuni, why don't you write these scenes? Without this, your story is incomplete. So I have to write this. The next text is um okay. Even if you don't sleep now, then I don't talk with you. He said, and YoOngI placed his head on, then closed his eyes. He then closed his eyes. Yeah, I find them so cute. Okay, so let's start the text. Jimin see him. He looks so cute while he's sleeping. YoOngI smile, and Jimin start to watch the reels. After almost 2 to 3 hours, YoOngI wake up, but he don't leave him. Both are with each other. Jimin, YoOngI, I am hungry. YoOngI, me too. Jimin then order something. YoOngI same. YoOngI, oh, I think something. He said, and Jimin on you, huh? Okay, so they are so cute. I found them so cute. That's why I write the FF. Okay. Person, he said, and person, he said, and then YoOngI order food for them. Jimin is speaking non-stop, telling him what he did without him whole day, and YoOngI listen everything silently. He is a good listener. Well, I also wanted someone like YoOngI. He listen me, huh? Okay, Jimin speaks something also. YoOngI, I am listening you. Jimin, you are not listening me. You are. Sometimes I feel like you have some with. He said, and YoOngI say him. YoOngI, that's true. And the last he gave his head. Okay, so YoOngI with they spent a good time. In the blink of eyes, time passed. Okay, I spent 2 years. I got so many scenes, but still, see the length of the video. Hmm. They come back. They come back. Some more days pass. Everything is online until the day Jimin get. He sit on the he sit on the bed with face. It's not like he don't want it, but still, Mrs. Min, what she said. What she said is coming in his mind. He called YoOngI, but YoOngI is not attending his call. He become and his phone on the ground and the door open. YoOngI looking down. He see Jimin phone. It's into piece and then he look at Jimin. YoOngI, what's this? Jimin, what I do with this mobile? When you don't attend my call, he said. Then YoOngI see the mobile is on silent. YoOngI, my phone was on silent. Jimin saw what I do. What I do, huh? How can you do this, YoOngI? If there is an what you do, YoOngI, it's alright. It's not a big deal. Jimin, you think it's not a big deal? YoOngI sign, he just come. And Jimin starts all this. YoOngI, tell me what happened. He asked normally. Jimin, nothing happened. He go out from the room. YoOngI also become, but he take a deep breath. He control himself. YoOngI, what's happened with him? First mom, dad, and now him also. I become. He go for fresh up and come out. He's finding a file, but he see Jimin. But he see Jimin file is in Almira. It's file. YoOngI become YoOngI. Is he okay? He think and open the file. He start to read. He read the line again and again, and then hear the door opening voice. He come and see Jimin. YoOngI, what's this? He asked him softly. Jimin see the file. Jimin, this is what I want to tell you, but you are not attending my calls. He sat down looking down. YoOngI placed the file on the table and went to him. YoOngI, you are not happy? Jimin looked at him. Jimin, I am so happy. YoOngI, then why you stand like this? Jimin, because I am at you, YoOngI. Okay, sorry. He on his forehead and him. Jimin, you are happy, he said. YoOngI say, YoOngI, I am so happy, Jiminy. I don't know how to explain. When you go, you tell me. I come with you, Jimin. I think I am thinking too much. There is nothing like this, so I do the and consult with YoOngI. I go with you from now, Jimin. They are so happy, but Jimin is he think about his mother. YoOngI, let's tell mom, dad, he said. Then Jimin nodded. Then they go downstairs. Jimin and YoOngI. Jimin and YoOngI come out. They see their parents. YoOngI, mom, dad. They look at them. They look so happy. Mrs. Min look at Mr. Min. Mrs. Min, yes, yes, sir. YoOngI, mom, I want to tell you something. Mrs. Min, said YoOngI, Jimin is, he said, and they are shocked for some time, and then Mrs. Min started jumping in happiness. Mrs. Min, really, Jimin, son, you are. Jimin nodded and she Jimin. Jimin, auntie, Mrs. Min, my son, I am so happy. My she on his forehead. Jimin smiled. Mr. Min, congratulations, son. He said, and Mrs. Min said, Jimin, just sit. Mrs. Min, I take care of you now, she said happily. YoOngI smiled to see his parents. Mrs. Min, what you eat? You tell me. You don't eat much. I take care of you. I make food for you. You don't do any work. You don't even stand up. You just take rest. Jimin, auntie, I am totally fine. Mrs. Min, I know, but now you are. I take care of you, she said excitedly. Mr. Min signed to see his, but he is happy for his son. Mrs. Min, you go in your room. Take care. I make something for you, YoOngI. You take him tomorrow, Yoongi. I do, mom. Mrs. Min, you go in room and take rest. She's don't listen. Jimin and sent them in room. Yoongi is happy to see his mom. And Jimin sit on the bed. Jimin, Yoongi. Auntie is so excited. Yoongi, yeah. She said she always want to play with their Jimin, Yoongi. Now what happened? The door slightly opened. Mrs. Min about to come inside but stopped. When they heard they are talking. Yoongi, what happened, Jimin? Jimin, if it would be a girl. Auntie said she heard. Yoongi, my mom just said she don't do anything. Jimin, trust me, there is a reason they do all this. Young Jimin, and what's the reason they girls that much? Yoongi, I myself don't know, but there is a reason. Jimin, if it would be what we do, Yoongi, I talk with mom. Everything become alright. No one do anything or said anything. If it's happened, then Jimin, then Yoongi, then I am independent enough to handle my family. He said, then Jimin, stay silent. Mrs. Min knock on the door. Yoongi, mom, come. She come with the soup and give to Jimin. Mrs. Min, drink soup, son. If you want something else, tell me. Jimin, auntie, you really no need to do this. I take care of myself. Mrs. Min, why you do when I am here, she said, and she go. She don't stand for a long time. Jimin in mind, her eyes is shining. What happened with her? He think, and then Yoongi him the sob. After that, they for some times and then fell in sleep. Hmm. Jimin come downstairs. Jimin come downstairs. He see Mrs. Min sit there with so much shopping bags. Yoongi also see look at Yoongi also see they look at each other, and then Mrs. Min, Yoongi, mom, what's all this? Mrs. Min, I do shopping for my, she said, and then hold Jimin hand. Mrs. Min, Jimin, come see. Jimin smiled to see her, and then she showed him the dresses. It's all boy dresses and also so many toys and many more. Jimin see all this. He is smiling, but he thinks something. He smile. He look at Mrs. Min, who is talking and telling him everything. Mrs. Min, you like son? Jimin, thank you, auntie. Mrs. Min, why thanks, son? She said happily. Yoongi see Jimin, who's already looking at him. Mrs. Min, you drink juice? Jimin sighed as no, Mrs. Min, I make for you, she said, and go in the kitchen. Yoongi sits beside him and hold his hand. Yoongi looked at him with Yoongi. I said, nah, I am with you. No one said something. Nothing happens. It's only your Jimin. It's not only your Jimin, it's my also. He said, and Jimin nodded. Jimin, if give us Jimin, I don't care if it's a boy or girl. He and she would be my life, he said. Then Yoongi smiled. Then Mrs. Min come. She gave him juice and started to pack everything. Mrs. Min, I decorated our room. Jimin see her happy face. She is really taking good care of him. Time passed. Time passed with the passage of time. Jimin is 6 months. Mrs. Min take care of him well. Jimin would said he want ice cream, chocolate or something. She ordered for him as soon as possible. She arranged everything. Even she take care of him that much. Jimin don't tell Yoongi he wants something, as everything is already in their room. With the passage of time, Jimin is becoming Jimin is so big. It's become for Jimin to sometimes the other thing. Yoongi also take care of him a lot now. If they warned they would know the of the first Jimin not agree, but as YoOngI said, it's helped them. Still 20 minutes or so are left. Well, it's okay. Hmm. It's helped them so, and so they do. The come today, Jimin sit on the bed waiting for YoOngI. Mrs. Min is him. Fruits, Jimin, Auntie, I am done. Mrs. Min, eat a little bit more, Jimin, son. Jimin, but Auntie, I am full. He said with a pout and YoOngI come. YoOngI see him and Mrs. Min, you come, son? YoOngI nodded with a small smile and then she go out. Jimin, YoOngI, what was that? YoOngI sighed. YoOngI, you with the Jimin, he said with a smile on his face. Jimin smiled, but on the next second his smile. Jimin, YoOngI, YoOngI, shh, don't take. I said, nah, I handle everything. It means I do. He said, while, hmm, holding his hand. Jimin, YoOngI, everything become alright, right? YoOngI, Jimin, can we tell Auntie? YoOngI, no need to tell anyone. For now, I handle everything. He said, and Jimin nodded. Then YoOngI go for fresh up. YoOngI come back and see Jimin sit on the bed. He about to stand up. YoOngI, where are you going? Jimin, I am going downstairs. I am feeling so here. They come downstairs. They come downstairs in lawn and Jimin sit on the chair. YoOngI, now you feel okay? Jimin nodded and smiled lightly. But the thing is this, he's Mrs. Min come. Mrs. Min, YoOngI, Jimin, it's been 6 months. Why don't you ask for YoOngI ma? It's just 2 months left. We keep this as a surprise. Mrs. Min, okay, I am going at my friend's house. I come in evening and make dinner. YoOngI, take care, mom, and if you want something, call me. Mrs. Min, oh no, just take care of my son. She on Jimin forehead and she goes. Jimin see her and looking down. YoOngI, I said you don't take Jimin like this. We are her. YoOngI, she take care of me a lot. You go office, but whole day say she stay in my room with me and make food for me. She even wash my YoOngI. She don't understand you, Jimin now, and it's maybe YoOngI. You said by yourself she don't do anything, YoOngI. YoOngI, you said by yourself what she said, Jimin, but he stays silent. How a mother? Jimin is in. Jimin is in his room. Just 3 days left. Give him time. YoOngI go for meeting as the meeting is so important and Jimin is the one who sent him. And Mrs. Min is as usual with him. She come with a box. Jimin, auntie, what's this? Mrs. Min opened the box and gave Jimin some pictures. Jimin see the pictures. She's a small girl. Jimin, auntie, she's so beautiful. Who's she? Mrs. Min, she is my daughter, YoOngI, elder sister. She said with a smile and see the picture. Jimin see her, he freeze on his watch. YoOngI had elder sister, he never tell him or he maybe himself don't know. Jimin, what really? He never tell me, where is she? Mrs. Min, Jimin, what? Mrs. Min, you must be think, Jimin. Why I want, and it's today I tell you something which I may not allow to tell anyone, but as a mother of a, I can feel your. She said and looked at him. Mrs. Min, when I come here, my in is so as yours, she said and chuckled. Mrs. Min, I always think if I had, I get, I do this with his also, and then I become. My mother said she won't only, otherwise her. I don't take her serious and with my Ria. She is telling him and is continuously from her eyes. Mrs. Min, my Ria is so beautiful, Jimin, just like a see. She is showing him pictures also. Mrs. Min, but my aunt don't accept her. Months pass, years pass, youngie dad don't talk with me. Don't even look at Ria. Ria always wait for him, try to talk with him. She's kid. She won't, but he never think about her. But he never think as is. And my mother, she on my Ria. I remember she so much. Youngie father is like if she don't stop, he's on that old times where the girl is just nothing else and see this. She show him the last picture, Mrs. Min and he, Maria. She said then Jimin like stop. Mrs. Min, Mrs. Min, he Maria. She said and start. Jimin who Mrs. Min, my mother, used to him so much. She start and said everything and all this, and he Maria don't had Jimin. I know Jimin who Mrs. Min Yoongi dad because of the family he Maria. She is Jimin. See the pictures Mrs. Min Maria don't had. She is saying and Mrs. Min nothing is changed Jimin. Nothing is changed in these 34 years. Nothing is changed. He is same. I don't want time repeat again. I was Jimin. I don't want time repeat here. Also, if you both take her from here and go from here, I feel Mrs. Min. Hmm. Okay. Her aunt go. Jimin auntie. Mrs. Min, you do. Mrs. Min, Jimin, you do. As I said, you promise me you don't tell Yoongi anything, please. Jimin, why, Auntie? Mrs. Me, you just do. As I said, you don't tell anything. Jimin nodded and do promise. He said he don't know his mother is that much from life. She so many times ago, Mrs. Min, and this she saw him the girl's cloth. Mrs. Min, this is all Maria's. Jimin, if you have, can you heard this? He nodded hurriedly. Mrs. Min, he Maria from you also. Jimin sign as now. Mrs. Min, you take Yoongi. I am still your mother. She said, Dan, Jimin mom, what I do for you, Mrs. Min, take care of yourself and your don't do this, I do, and always keep my son happy. She said, Dan, Jimin nodded, he hid a big truth today. He want to tell Yoongi, but he can't. Okay, and the day of come, Mr. Min is in office. Jimin gave to her. Yoongi come in the room. He see Mrs. Min there and Jimin is sleeping. Yoongi don't. Yoongi didn't said anything. He see Jimin. Mrs. Min take Jimin from here and go as we don't accept the and you don't leave him or her. Yoongi, that's good. You already know. Mrs. Min, then go from here. What you are thinking, Yoongi? This is your last choice, Mrs. Min. I said you my decision on the very first day of your. She said, Yoongi, then go from here. I take my and go. He said, and look at Jimin. Mrs. Min see Jimin. She want to talk with Jimin, but she can't. She know the businessman Min Jung Suk is not. His father is not. He is somewhere in the past. Thoughts he don't want his son something very precious she do a long time ago. Mrs. Min see them as she go from there. Yoongi sign. His eyes is shining. And then Jimin hold his hand. Jimin Yoongi. Yoongi see him, smile. He sit in front of him. Yoongi, my, you okay? He on his forehead. Yoongi. Jimin, mom, don't come. Yoongi, let's go somewhere, Jimin, far from here. And here Jimin understand. Hope so he can tell everything to Yoongi. But he can't. Jimin look at the end. Yoongi go, he her and come. Jimin see her. Jimin Riya. Yoongi see him. Yoongi Riya. Jimin, her name is Riya. Yoongi, nice name by the way. He said and Jimin see her. He remembered Mrs. Min and fell from her eyes. He know he don't keep the height. कितना रह गया? मेरा 10 मिनट. हाँ. They come, Daegu. It's been 10 days they are here. Jimin don't eat much nor he talk with anyone. Yoongi is the one who take care of her. Now also she is sleeping. Yoongi sit in front of him. Jimin is totally fine now. Yoongi is him. Yoongi, don't you share with me? Jimin, what auntie said. Yoongi, she said take your family and go. Jimin, you her? Yoongi, how can someone his mom? Yoongi, don't do that. She is so good. Yoongi, she said us to leave because of her, and you said she is good. Jimin, she is good. He said and lay on the bed. Yoongi, hiding something from me. Jimin, hope so I can tell you. He think and close his eyes. Yoongi see him. He also lay on the bed and Jimin him. He hide his face. Yoongi see him. He know Jimin is by something. Maybe he because of the sudden change, so he don't said anything. He him and both fell asleep. Okay, so this is the third last scene as 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 45, 40, 49, 50. 6, 7, 8 minutes whatsoever left finally. So this is the third last scene. Time pass. Jimin Rhea, Yoongi come fast. Yoongi, what happened? He kissed on his cheeks. Rhea, yes. Jimin Taeyang is going to Rhea. What really? I am so happy. Jimin, said him congratulations. Jimin, I do. We go, Yoongi. Of course we go. And this is the second last scene. Yoongi sit on. Yoongi stand on the terrace. Jimin come and back him. Yoongi turn and take him and his Yoongi Rhea sleep. Jimin, she is sleeping. Yoongi, Jimin offer him coffee. Yoongi thanks. Jimin mention not. Yoongi, you do your packing. Jimin, Yoongi, where we stay? Yoongi, I do booking in hotel. Jimin, we can go home. Yoongi, see him. Yoongi, you know what you are saying? He cupped his face. Jimin on his hand. Jimin, I know, Yoongi. I want to meet Yoongi, you want to meet the woman she don't even see Rhea. Jimin, you don't know something, Yoongi, and now it's enough for Jimin, by the way. Hmm, you have to now I ask for from auntie, but I can't take it anymore. He said. Then Yoongi become confused. Jimin start to tell him everything and show him the photo. Yoongi see the photo. His mother, Riya, Mrs. Min gave him one photo. Jimin, she want our happiness, Yoongi. Yoongi, you don't tell me why, Jimin. Jimin, I do promise with her, but now it's important. Jimin, what I think and I am. Jimin, I am. Jimin, he get the YoOngI, but we didn't give to her. He said, and YoOngI nodded. She him so much. YoOngI, let's go him and his eyes. Hmm. He don't even he don't even know about his sister and his mother. He misses so much. He don't said anyone, but Jimin can see, and now it's needed to tell him. Jimin can't see him away from Mrs. Min anymore, and YoOngI is in. Finally, the last scene is going to start. The voiceover is really so long. Okay, finally, the last scene. Hmm. In Min house, Mrs. Min sit on the couch and Mr. Min also. Mrs. Min forget to smile in these 4 years. She miss YoOngI and Jimin so much and always think about her. Mr. Min thinking about your son. Mrs. Min, my daughter. Mrs. Min, Mr. Min, don't mention her. Mrs. Min, why? You remember you do the Mr. Min, I said you stay silent. He said and stand up. He bowed to her. She closed her eyes but don't feel any. She opened her eyes and see YoOngI stand there. YoOngI, how you even to my mom? He said and Mr. Min eyes widened. Jimin went to Mrs. Min. Jimin, auntie. Mrs. Min see. Mrs. Min see him and YoOngI. Mr. Min, what the you are doing here? And then the come, Mr. Min, you accept you mean Riya buy your car and also height. You have a Mr. Min, what is this? You don't know. I don't know any Riya. I don't do anything, he said, but they take him. YoOngI see his mom. YoOngI, mom, you okay? He bent down in front of her. Mrs. Min, my YoOngI, my son. YoOngI, why don't you tell me, mama? Why don't you tell me anything? Mrs. Min looked at Jimin, who held his ear. Mrs. Min saying him, Mrs. Min, YoOngI's son, YoOngI's mom, YoOngI, you are that much you don't tell me. Finally, last scene and the third last text. Mrs. Min, my son, we don't know what our mothers for us, and we don't waste time to honor her. YoOngI, me mom, for what I did. Mrs. Min sign as no, Mrs. Min, it's okay, son. They've been sorry, auntie, but I don't have any option except to tell him. She said. She said something they heard a loud voice. Something fell. Jimin sighed. Jimin, Riya, you are like YoOngI, your mom. He said and give him there. And then a cute girl come while running. Mrs. Min see her. Her eyes become to see her. Mrs. Min, Riya. She looked at YoOngI and Jimin. Jimin nodded with a smile. Riya granny. She ran and Mrs. Min. Second last scene, last scene and the second last text. She looked at YoOngI. YoOngI, Jimin tell her about you and show your pictures also. He said and Mrs. Min on her whole face. Jimin kept his promise. She Riya. Mrs. Min Maria. She Riya. Granny, yes, I am. They are smiling and YoOngI phone ring. I attend the call. YoOngI, yes, Mr. Min, your father run from the car and with the he said and YoOngI closed his eyes and sighed. Okay, so he's still his father. YoOngI looked at his family and mom. Sometimes later, Jim and mom, I am so done from both of them. What I do? Mrs. Min, what happened? Jim and mom, see, they are playing games. She have to do her homework. And last scene and the last text. YoOngI have to do his office work. After that, they said I don't tell them time, and now they are not listening me. Jimin said while signing. Mrs. Min smiled. Mrs. Min, leave them, son. Jimin, they do whatever they want. If they come to me, I'll both of them. He said and go to the kitchen to make coffee. Mrs. Min smiled with the sign. We never book by its cover. YoOngI and Riya's playing and they all are so happy. Mr. Min, but he get from